Hello, everybody. I'm Rohan Vias. I'm a senior at McQuaid Jesuit High School.
Hi, I'm Radhika Sirlushkar, a senior at Pittsford Sutherland High School, and welcome to Flavors of India, the second session of our exhibit. Both of us are IHM members who are leading this exhibit with the great support of our community. So thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, and welcome to Flavors of India, presented by the India Heritage Museum at the Luthra India Heritage Center near the India Community Center. Today, we will be presenting our second program of a 6-part virtual series displaying different foods from various regions of India.
Again, happy Holi. Holi is the festival of the changing seasons from winter to spring. Some sweet dishes eaten in different regions are gujia, puran-polis, malpua, and thandai. In today's program, we're going to be covering street foods and snacks of India. We'll be showing you bhel, dhokla, how to make paneer, and some paneer dishes you can make. We'll also be showing you how to make masala chai. So stay tuned.
So just to recap here, you can see our 6-part virtual series. So this one's on street food, and then the next couple are going to be on breads, vegetarian dishes, non-veg dishes, and then desserts.
So last week we had mentioned a raffle. So our raffle winner from last week's session is Timothy Geen. So congratulations. We will be contacting you to get you your gift. This week, we have a raffle item, which will be a mortar and pestle. So everyone who has attended this session will be eligible to win that.
Awesome. That sounds really cool.
We'd like to thank our sponsors today, Namaste Grocery. They've been a great help for us for getting our ingredients. So thank you to them. You can check them out. Their address and other information is in the flyer.
Awesome. So, well busy in their professional lives, today's chefs have taken the time to carry forward beautiful Indian cooking traditions and actually give us a glimpse of their own recipes. So, Radhika?
Introducing our 2 chefs. Bijal Tucker moved to the Rochester area 6 years ago and loves being part of the community. She moved here from Austin with her husband Ross and son Shaman. She currently works as Vice President and General Manager of Energy Americas for TE Connectivity. She is truly a foodie with a passion for exploring the cuisines of the world, her favorites being Thai, Indian, and Lebanese. She developed her cooking skills after moving to the US 27 years ago, wow, as necessary to satisfy the cravings of all the delicacies of India. Her favorite things to cook are falafel, tacos, and of course, all things Indian, particularly Gujarati food. She expresses her affection for her friends and family by cooking. Who's our second presenter?
It's Chetna Auntie. She lives in Pittsford for the last 16 years with her husband Abbas and her daughter Adia. Chetna is a CPA and she currently works as a Chief Financial Officer at Villa of Hope and believes in giving back to the community. Amongst her favorite cuisines are Indian, Italian, and Mexican food. She developed her cooking skills around her favorite food items, especially chaat, that she misses the most from India. She thrives on trying new mixes and trying different proportions according to taste and not by exact measurements in the recipe. Over the years, she learned to make some of her favorite authentic dishes to share with her friends and family. Now, let's swing it over to the IHM kitchen and see what's cooking.
Let's begin.
Hi, I'm Chetna and today I'm going to make you some bhel puri.
Hi, I'm Bijal and I'm going to be chit-chatting with Chetna while she makes her very famous chaat bhel puri.
Thank you, Bijal, for being there with me today. So, I grew up in India, but I actually did not cook while I grew up. So, when I come to the US, I realized that I really don't know how to cook. And then I'm missing all these wonderful food items from India. So, one of those being chaat items. So, Bijal, do you know what chaat is?
Well, chaat actually is a Hindi word that means to lick.
So yes, when you're eating chaat and it's like sweet, tangy, savory flavor, and you're literally licking your fingers, that's when I think the name would have arrived, chaat.
Exactly.
And it's actually served as hors d'oeuvres or appetizers,
yes,
mostly. And one of the key items that come from Maharashtra is bhel puri, and also called jhalmuri in Calcutta, I think. In Gujarat also, it's a very
As
popular
we call
snack.
it bhel, yes, it's very popular. And the good thing about chaat is no matter what state you're from, everybody loves chaat.
Yes, absolutely. So, well, we went shopping. So, in Rochester, we have so many Indian stores, and I went shopping in Namaste, and I bought these nice bhel puri mix. So, bhel puri is actually, you know, if you see the picture here, these are rice puffed snacks, and they are, you know, they have some save mixed in it. The basic ingredient is grams or chana. What does it called in
Yes,
English?
so the save is basically made up of chickpea flour. It's very thin sticks fried, and the mamra is puffed rice. And the bhel puri mix is a mix of the save, which is the chana sticks or the chickpea sticks, and the puffed rice.
Okay, so the ingredients for today. So we have bhel mix, which is readily available at Indian stores, or you can add your puffed rice at home and mix some save and mix some peanuts in it, and you can do it at home by yourself. We also have chaat masala, which is bought from store, tamarind chutney, green chutney, and there's lemon, or you can actually squeeze fresh lemon, and there's some black salt. All right, then we had chopped coriander or cilantro. I made some green chutney at home, so I'm going to try that today as well. There's red chili powder. Then we chopped, very finely chopped tomatoes. Tomatoes, onion, and potatoes are the basic ingredients that go into the bhel. But
Chetna,
what-
are these potatoes boiled? Pre-boiled?
these are, yes, boiled potatoes, and you chop them fine, and you can either like squish them or cut them. And then for some healthy twist to it, what I do is I add some cucumbers to it and apples. And that's the thing, that you can be very creative with this. Whatever you like in your salads, you can actually throw it into bhel. So whatever works.
And you know what I like about what you've chosen here, Chetna, is we've got some crunch, so lots of textures. We've got
Yes.
some crunch, we've got some tanginess, we've got some strong flavors of the onion, and of course we've got the sweetness of the apples.
Absolutely.
Great combination.
So the important thing about bhel is that it does need to be crunchy, like you said, Bijal. So it does need to be crunchy. So it needs to be really mixed very quickly, but it should have some of the like liquid and the softness to it. But when you eat it, you should feel the crunchiness of some of the vegetables and the puffed rice. So are we ready to mix it?
Absolutely. And one of the things I have to mention about Chetna's chart is some of the chutneys she makes. She really does a great job of making them healthy. She's very creative. So I really appreciate your
Thank you,
creativity
Bijal.
with chutneys. Of course, you can buy them ready-made, but nothing beats Chetna's chutneys.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I like that. Chetna's chutneys. Maybe you should
Chetna
bottle
chutney.
some.
Yes. All right, Bijal. So since you said this is chit chat with Chetna and her chutney,
Yes.
why don't you share some favorite memories about chaat while
Ooh,
growing up?
so some of my recent memories are obviously at your place, Chetna. But
Goodness.
lots of fun. So I've eaten a lot of Chetna's bhel puri. But my favorite memory is actually with my mother. So my mom and I, we would go shopping in the afternoon, and this is your classic quintessential street food. And after a bit of shopping, my mom and I would treat ourselves to some bhel puri on the street. And I think if I ate it now, I'd probably get sick. But now I come to your house, Chetna, to
Oh,
have the
that's
similar
nice.
tasty bhel puri that you make.
Thank you. And my favorite memory when I grew up in Delhi was to eat pani puri. We called it golgappa actually in Delhi, and to eat it when the person will serve it with his hands and take it in your hand and eat it. That's the chaat part of it. All right, so let's start making bhel puri. So I poured some of my bhel into this bowl.
How many cups do you think that is, Chetna,
That
approximately?
is about, goodness,
Maybe
about
4 or 5
5
cups?
cups probably.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right, so so because we need to keep it very crunchy and don't like mix everything together, so we have to go a little bit slower with the steps. So take the dry things before you start doing the chutneys. So add all the dry stuff before.
And that's about 4 to 5 tablespoons. I would say
Yeah.
maybe 1 tablespoon for a cup of the bel puri mix.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that I am not such a measures person, so I actually look at how it would taste to
Yes.
me. So if I really want more apples in my bhel puri, I'll put more apples.
For sure.
And so the peanuts are a little. You can add peanuts already there in that bhel mix too.
You know, some people also add cashews. I think those taste good as well.
Yeah.
You can also add pomegranate seeds. The pomegranate seeds, my mother used to add pomegranate
that's
seeds.
awesome.
Oh, it's amazing. The point here is get creative with all your fixings when it comes to the mix.
All right. So what did I miss now?
Some cucumber.
Yes. Okay. So now I've put all the veggies in here, and what I do with the chutneys is I actually would like to mix those.
When do you add
separately.
the onions, Chetna?
Oh, did I not add the onions yet?
I think we may need some more. Brilliant. Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. So to do the chutneys, what I would do is take a couple tablespoons of the green chutney. I added some of my homemade chutney. In my homemade chutney, I added some ginger, garlic, and garlic, if people don't eat garlic, they don't have to, but you could have cilantro. I have started using arugula and spinach and kale in my chutney too. So that's something you can do any variations you want. And I would make it a little not so thick, liquidy, so that when I stir all of this up, it will have its crunchiness, but then it will have that liquid taste to it. So add some lime juice, and if you want to make it even more liquid, you can add some water to it actually. But instead of adding water, I'm going to add some of the liquid from the tomatoes.
That's a great idea. Great idea. It also adds that tanginess
Yes,
from the tomatoes.
absolutely.
Very nice.
So
very
now
nice.
now this is all mixed up and not that thick anymore. All right, so
Is that a chili powder for extra spiciness?
that is chili powder. So what I can do is, before I put that, I'm going to add some chaat masala.
Very nice. And chaat masala basically is a mix of spices. It's got some black salt, some cumin, some cilantro powder. You can easily actually buy the premix from any Indian store. And I can tell you, chaat masala is great even on fruits like apples, pears. I love it on watermelon too.
Then there's some black salt. So instead of regular salt, I like to use black salt. And remember, when black salt usually can get like very thick, so you need to break it up.
Yeah, it's a
Alright.
little clumpy, isn't it?
Okay, so I think, Bijal, did I miss anything here?
I think you're going to do the fresh cilantro
As a
at the end.
garnish.
Very nice, very
Yes.
nice. Yes. No, I think. Ooh, I can almost smell everything. I can't wait to taste it, Jitna.
Oh my God, this looks good.
And I think the proportion is just perfect. The balance of the bel puri mix with the chutneys, with the dry ingredients, and of course now the last one to go is
Chutney.
Is the chutney mix.
All right. And you can always add more chutney. So when we taste it and we like a little bit more
Absolutely.
chutney to our taste, then we can make more chutney, add more chutney to it.
Yeah, the good thing about bel puri is there is no right or wrong in terms of how many chutneys, how many dry ingredients. It's really up to your taste. So get creative and have fun with it.
All right, I think my bale is ready.
It is
Bijal?
ready, yes.
You're
Are you
ready
ready
to
to
try?
serve?
So let's
And the last
serve.
thing, I think the cilantro, are you going to put it in the last or do you mix it?
I
I've
would
seen
add
done
it
both
as
ways.
a garnish, ma'am.
Very nice, very nice. Oh, Chetna, I think we're ready to serve our bel
Yes,
puri.
let's
Yum, yum.
serve our bale. So I'm going to put some bale in the bowl. Looks like this is going to be our main meal because I love it.
Me too.
It's
And
not-
and in
yeah.
terms of drink with this, if you ask my husband, he'd probably want to have beer with this. But I love some tea as well.
Yeah. Okay, so you garnish this with a little bit of save on top,
Very nice.
and then you can add some. So the greens look really good on top. So
Very pretty. Very
you
pretty.
can add it along with the bale as well, but just on top you get a separate taste of cilantro. And then if people like a little bit of more spiciness, then add some red chili.
For more spiciness, you can also add more green chutney, and if you want it a little sweeter, you can go heavier on the tamarind chutney, because tamarind chutney is sweet, while the green chutney is a bit spicy and a little bit more tangy.
Here you go, Bijal.
Wow, Chetna.
Cheers
Cheers.
to Chetna's chart.
To Chetna's chaat and her chutneys. It's perfect.
It is.
It's so balanced,
High five.
it's crunchy, it's got enough chutneys in it, it's just perfect. I wish you guys could taste this.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today and learning how to make bhel puri. I hope you have fun making it at home.
I had a lot of fun tasting it with you,
Thank
Chetna.
you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Bijal Thakur. Today I'll be making khaman dokla, which is a very traditional Gujarati dish, which is a state that I'm from. So I'm going to start with some ingredients first.
Hey, before you start, Bijal, what is the difference between khaman and dokla?
Great question, Chetna. So khaman is made with chickpea flour, which is what I'm going to be demonstrating today. And dokla is made with primarily rice flour. Some other lentil flours, you can use some chickpea flour, you can use some tuer dal. So that's the key difference between the two. One is white and one is yellow. So yellow is khaman, which is what I'm going to make today. And then dokla is white, which primarily uses rice as its base.
And is this like an appetizer, or can this be eaten as breakfast? Or
Yes, great question. Khaman is it transcends all times of the day. So in Gujarat, Baroda, particularly where I'm from, you can have khaman with breakfast, with tea. You can. It's also served as an appetizer in the afternoon with our main meal, or it's also served as a snack at 4 o'clock with tea. So you can really have khaman any time of the day, which what makes this dish so versatile and fabulous.
Beautiful. All right, let's start.
All right, so I'm going to start with the base, which is the dal. So this is a chickpea dal. It's a split chickpea dal, very high in protein, and it's a very, very good base for khaman. You could add a little bit of semolina and or some plain flour, but I just like to use plain chickpea dal, which is split. You can get it at any Indian store, and it's easily available. The other dry ingredients are ginger. I cannot even begin to tell you all the good properties of ginger. Ginger, as you all know, is very medicinal, but in this instant, it adds a ton of flavor along with some red chilies. Now, red chilies, be careful with those. Please use them as per your taste and tolerance for spiciness, because these chilies are quite spicy in nature. The other dry ingredients I have here is mustard seeds. So mustard seeds, as you can see here, small seeds, again, easily available at an Indian store. I am going to be using this to temper the dokra, the khaman at the end, along with some curry leaves. So these are fresh curry leaves. They've got a pretty interesting taste and a smell to them. Make sure you use fresh curry leaves. That's very important in this particular dish.
And you can get them at Indian store, or actually people in Rochester grow them at their homes.
That's actually very true. It's easy to grow at home, obviously, but the fresher the curry leaves, the better your dish is. In terms of some wet ingredients, I have some lemon juice. I also have some oil. I'm using avocado oil, but you can pretty much use any oil that you like. Peanut oil is the best in terms of flavor, and that's what's traditionally used in Gujarat to make this dish. The other wet ingredient is yogurt. Any kind of yogurt, homemade or store-bought, is fine. And I'll explain what the yogurt is for here in a second. But so these are our ingredients. One last dry ingredient I forgot to mention is fruit salt. The brand name is Eno, but you can use fruit salt as its common generic name. It will be used at the end to really let the flour rise before we put it in the steamer to actually cook the batter.
So Bijal, I love all my Gujarati friends, and I really enjoy dhokla, but I never could make it at home because I think it takes a long time to make it.
No, actually, this is quite easy. Yes, from a time standpoint, from a total time, yes, it takes a little bit longer. But actually, once you soak the batter, it's very, very quick. So let me start with soaking the batter, right? So first, you take these split chickpeas, the chana dal, right? We talked about that earlier. And you soak it with some water. What I like to do is I like to soak it for about 4 to 5 hours. Some people can soak it overnight if you want to do it at night and use it for breakfast the next day. It might be easier to soak it the night before, but you need to soak it for at least 4 to 5 hours.
Is it better to soak it in hot water to make it faster? Or not?
Yes, so that's great point. So it is better to soak it in hot water because what that does, it helps the chickpea to really fluff up and then start the soaking process a lot faster. So that's a great question, Chetna. Hotter the water, the better it is.
Nice.
So you soak this dal for about 4 to 5 hours, like I mentioned, and then after that time lapse, you take any kind of a grinder. You can take a food processor, you can take a blender. I prefer food processor because you don't want the lentil to be too smooth. It has to have a little bit of texture to it because that will actually help have that nuttiness, that bite to the cumin, which is very important. So you take the soaked dal, you add a piece of ginger. So let's say you have about 3 cups of dal. I would add maybe kind of this much ginger, maybe 2 to 3 inch long ginger. Chilies, like I said, it's per your taste. I would mix that. I would add a tablespoon or 2 of yogurt. And I'll explain why yogurt is important. Some salt, a little bit of just very little sugar. One thing about Gujarati food is we don't even cook savory without sugar.
Nice.
So just a little bit of sugar and then you blend it all in. Like I said, I like to use a food processor because it gives that a little bit of that texture. And the importance of a little bit of sugar and yogurt is it actually helps in the fermentation process.
Oh, that's nice.
So
Just like Eno.
Exactly. So the bacteria in the yogurt actually speeds up the fermentation, which is very important to get that very spongy, very tangy texture to come on. So what I have here is basically a blended batter of all the ingredients that I mentioned. And then as we are ready to make it, what you do is, just as about you're ready to sort of start steaming this cumin. So the other interesting thing about cumin is not only the chickpea lentil is very good for you, but you can make it without oil per se or very little oil. So you can take this batter.
That's
I
nice.
like to add a little bit of oil. It just makes it a little bit soft. So just a spoonful or something of oil is great. And then as you're ready to steam it, this is a very important step. We will add some Eno. Once you add Eno, it's important that you stir the batter in only one direction.
Oh, that's interesting. I did not know that.
Yes, because what it does, it helps with the rising of the cumin. So you just take about, I would say, half a tablespoon to about a cup and a half to 2 cups of the mixture. And then as you can see, it starts rising. Very important to stir it in one direction only and really, really blend it well.
Oh, that's awesome.
You can add salt right before this step, or you can add salt while you are soaking the batter. So the fermentation of this requires about 2 to 3 hours. So just to repeat myself here, soak the dal for 4 to 5 hours, take the ginger, the chili, the yogurt, the lemon, and grind it in a food processor, and then I would leave it for a couple of hours. Because in Rochester it's so cold, I actually leave it in my oven.
Oh, that's nice, yeah.
Because it has a better temperature
You can
than...
just kind of cover it
Exactly.
with some
You
cloth
cover it and you leave it in your oven for about 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah, I can see some bubbles in it.
And you can see some bubbles.
Look at that.
And now we are actually going to steam this batter.
So, Bijal, do you remember in old days or in our grandma's home, they used to have silbatta where they would actually grind it like that.
That's
to
right.
keep the texture.
That's
and
right.
now we work with blenders these days. So
Absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
amazing. Yeah.
Very good point. And the last step before we will steam it is you take a tray like this, put some oil so it doesn't stick. You can use your hands, you can use a brush, doesn't matter. I like to use my hands and get them dirty.
Just like baking a cake.
Exactly, just like baking a cake. Again, very good point, Chetna. Take the batter. It's important that you don't overfill the tray. And the consistency of the batter is also very important. I would say the consistency of the batter is like a very thick marinara sauce.
Oh, wow.
Okay? Then you can spread this around. Make sure that the height of the batter is no more than half of the plate that you're going to actually steam it. So
Okay, because it's going to rise up to the top.
exactly. So now this is ready to steam. I'll show you what it's going to look like. We're going to steam this here in a second, but once it's steamed, this is how it's going to look. So this is a steamer. As you can see, my steamer is pretty beaten up, but this is a gift from my mom when I got married, so it has a lot of sentimental value, so I've hung on to it. But you can actually find this steamer at any Indian store. You can use a pan with a tray. It doesn't matter. Any steamer would work. You take the plate that I poured the batter in earlier on. Again, a reminder not to have it overfilled. And you sort of leave it in the steamer. And you close the steamer. I would say steam it for about 15 to 20 minutes. I would turn the stove off after you have steamed it for 15-20 minutes, and don't remove the lid right away. Let it rest for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then you can lift the lid. But that's how the steaming of the khaman happens. It takes about 15 minutes, 20 minutes to actual steam, and 10 minutes for it to rest, about 30 minutes. And if I come here to the station, so this is how a steamed plate looks like. So I actually steamed it prior to the one that I just put into the steamer. So when it's completed after 30 minutes, this is how it looks. Again, let it rest. It's very important for it to rest.
How do you know that it's ready? It's so hard to look at it. How do you
Very
know
good
even?
question.
Yeah.
You can open the steamer. What I do, it's a very old trick. I take a knife and I just stick it in the batter. And if it doesn't stick, it's ready, right?
Yep.
But leave it for 20 minutes. That's why the resting is important, because sometimes the moisture on the top needs to get absorbed. But you can just do this, and if it doesn't stick, it's ready.
That's great.
So this is a pre-steamed plate. And then, Chetna, the fun part about this, so I used to do this with my mom, yeah? I'm sure you've done this, something similar with yours. The fun part is cutting it. So you cut it into nice, even-sized pieces right here. And it's important that it's slightly cooled down before you cut it. Otherwise, it's going to get very mushy and you're going to lose the pretty diamond shape that I'm trying to aim for. Let's see how I'm good with my geometry here.
And then if I wanted to make some shapes, I could bring those cake, the
could.
ones like
You
heart
could.
shaped or something, and then make it that way.
Absolutely.
Oh, nice.
So you can do this.
Oh, beautiful.
And
wow.
see how pretty.
Look at that.
You can see the sponginess here, and this is very important to note.
awesome.
It is risen. These are some pre-cut that I made. I made extra so we can actually have them after our session
Oh,
here.
I cannot wait. This is going to be so delicious.
So they're all ready for us. And you take it out. And then we'll talk about the last steps here. But before we do the last step, I am going to show you and remind you of the ingredients for our tempering. So there you go. One other thing, if you're going to make more on the same tray, it's important that you wash it, otherwise it will not come off for the next batch. So
Absolutely.
important to wash this tray. For tempering, we need only 3 ingredients, and then we're going to garnish it with some fresh coriander. Thank you for letting me borrow from your bail segment, Chetna. So for tempering, I have mustard seeds, and again, fresh
Curry leaves.
green curry leaves and oil.
Nice.
You can add white sesame seeds to your tempering. You can add coconut shreds. You can add some red chilies if you really want it spicy.
Yes.
But I like to keep it simple for at least this purpose, to say, hey, these 3 ingredients are your basic ones. Okay?
Nice.
All right. Now the last step is to temper the khaman before we are ready to eat them.
Beautiful. I cannot wait.
All right. So I have this little container. You can actually use a regular pan to heat up the oil. I'm using avocado oil. You can use peanut oil, corn oil. It's important that you use an oil that can tolerate high temperature. So olive oil is not a good choice. Then you add some mustard seeds. You see they're starting to crackle. It's very important to listen for that crackle noise.
And I think the taste comes from the full crackling of it.
Exactly,
That the
Chetna.
whole tadka mix that you get
Yes.
from the burnt spices.
Exactly, exactly. And then I'm actually going to take this and add my curry leaves here in the sink so I don't make a mess around. So you can put those curry leaves there. Again, you can hear the crackle noise. You can add as many curry leaves. Chetna, would you mind giving me a bit more leaves out of here? Perfect. And oh, you can smell the curry leaves in this. Very, very tasty. And that is your final step before garnishing.
Amazing, Bijal. This smells so good. The
Yes.
curry leaves are smelling so good, and even the mustard. Oh,
Well-
let's look at this.
So this is our last step. Make sure you
Oh,
kind of
wow.
spread it around. You can take one of these and get the last of the mustard seeds. You can use a spoon. And then the key is to mix it up really, really well so the oil coats all of these little pieces. You can use your hand, you can use a spatula, it doesn't matter again. And I think I needed a bigger bowl, but we're going to make this work.
That's okay.
You had a nice bowl for your bel puri, Chetna.
Oh,
I'm
this-
still tasting it, actually.
Oh, this looks so amazing.
So you mix it all up. Oops,
okay.
we spilled one. And then,
Well, nothing like mixing with hands, right?
oh yes, I'm actually also adding my love to the kaman as you're ready to
Okay.
get to taste. So be prepared.
Talk
Last step is to add some fresh cilantro. Like I said, you can add some fresh coconut as well. But today I just have cilantro and I actually borrowed it from you as well, Chetna. So thank you.
Yeah, and some chili
while-
powder if you wanted to.
You can
or
also add some chili powder, but here you go. Your kaman
Oh
is
my
ready.
goodness,
Why don't I
okay.
serve you some?
Thank you. Wow.
And you can have it on its own, but you know what, Chetna? We are going to use some of the chutneys, and my hands are quite dirty. So if you want to open that for me and
Okay, so we're
serve
gonna put some
yourself,
chutney on
put
the
some
side.
chutney. Yes, and then let me know how it is. I'm dying to know.
Okay, this is my plate. Beautiful. All right, so I'm gonna take a piece and see. Mmm, yummy.
Is it good? Let's see.
Wow.
Not bad.
Thank you, Bijol. This is wonderful. You made my day. I love this.
I had so much fun cooking with you today, Chetna. Thank you.
you.
Hi Nisha, thank you for reaching out to us with an innovative idea of making.
Now introducing our next presenter. Nisha has always loved to experiment in the kitchen. She's a vegetarian but learned to cook all types of food for her family, including non-vegetarian. She often looks at recipes for inspiration but puts her own flair on it. As much as she loves preparing meals, she's constantly looking for shortcuts without sacrificing the integrity of the dish. She'll be showing us how to make paneer.
Hi Nisha, thank you for reaching out to us with an innovative idea of making paneer.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Sure.
What innovative idea do you have, Nisha, about making paneer?
Well, I will show you my trick. I love to cook and I love to make different things, but a lot of the recipes I do are just so long, take so many hours, so I try to find shortcuts. So I will show you how I make paneer in the Instant Pot.
Ooh, let's get started. I'm excited to see how you do this.
All right, let's get to it.
So what is paneer?
Paneer is probably the closest thing as the American farmer's cheese. It's a very fresh cheese. It can be used in many different ways. It can be pressed together to be used more of like a solid cheese, or it can actually be crumbled and you can kind of sprinkle it on food like after it's cooked. You can eat it raw, you can cook it, you can saute it lightly, you can deep fry it. There's so many different ways that you can use it.
Well, tell me, what do you need to make paneer?
You're gonna laugh, but you really need 2 ingredients, which is whole milk. It's a full fat milk, works best. I have tried it with 2% milk before. You just don't get enough curds to come out of it. And if you're gonna spend all that time to make paneer, why don't you maximize how much you can get out of it? And then the other ingredient that is crucial is some kind of an acid. And for me, I've experimented with lemon juice as well as different vinegars, but the white vinegar seems to be the easiest and the most productive.
That sounds great.
And as for ingredients, that's all we need, but we do need a couple utensils. So in addition to the Instant Pot, I also need something to take out the curds once they're done. And this is like my go-to Indian spatula that I use to just kind of mix things as they're separating.
Well, sounds great. So what kind of utensils do we need?
Okay, well, I can kind of walk you through the process and tell you what the different utensils are in the order that I use them. So, of course, we've got the Instant Pot here, which is going to be our main vessel that we're going to be cooking the milk and bringing it to a boil. And then while it's in here, it will just pressurize. And then the next thing we'll do to continue on with the process is when it's finished, we'll open up the Instant Pot and I will use this Indian spatula, which just kind of slowly mixes up the milk. You don't want to agitate it too much at this point. And then once the curds separate, which we'll talk about later, we will use this handy tool to separate out the curds, and we will strain that inside of this double cheesecloth that is placed perfectly over a bowl so that it can catch all of the whey. And then once this is as dry as possible, we will then transfer everything into this bowl here, and this is it. It doesn't take too many different utensils.
Wow, that's great. Can we get started?
Sure.
All right, well, the Instant Pot looks like it's plugged in. What do you turn it on to and how do we start?
Well, I guess first thing we'll do is open up the lid. I don't know if a lot of you have used Instant Pots before, but it's three simple pieces. It's the lid that has the ring it's removable so you can wash it. It has the insert, which is also removable, so you could take it out and clean it when you're finished. So we'll open that up, and in order to get started, I'm going to pour some water in here.
Why are you putting water into the Instant Pot first?
Well, I learned a little trick with trial and error when I didn't put water in it and I would just put the milk directly into the Instant Pot. When I opened the lid up, it would stick to the bottom. And my trick, I was just thinking like, oh, what if I had like a barrier, between the milk and the bottom of the pot? And I thought, well, let me just try it with water, because eventually the water is going to separate from the curds that we're going to be making. So I tried it, and voila, it didn't stick anymore.
Great idea.
So I did that. So I just put enough in there to just kind of coat the bottom. You don't need to measure it or anything like that, just enough to just coat it. And then I'll go ahead and pour the milk in. Actually, I should turn on the Instant Pot first. So I'll show you, every Instant Pot is different. You'll have to make sure that your Instant Pot has a yogurt function, because that's the only way you'll be able to get it to boil. Not all of them have it. So you'll just go ahead and hit the yogurt button until you hit adjust and bring it to where it says boil. And then it will go into that mode and will eventually beep as it's heating up. There, you hear it. So as it's doing that, I will go ahead and slowly pour in. You can do any amount really that you want, but I find that 1 gallon seems to be the perfect amount. It gives you enough curds in the end to fit into a 9x13 casserole dish, which could be for a large family, 1 dish. For my family, usually I can get 2 or 3 meals out of it, because we usually have some other things that accompany it. So it just depends how much you want to make. And the Instant Pot holds one gallon very well if you have the 6-quart. So I'll just pour that in. And one of my tricks actually is to keep milk at room temperature for about an hour. It makes the whole process go faster.
So once you pour the milk in, now do you stir it, or do you just let it come to a boil first?
No, no need to stir it right now. What we'll do is just secure the lid onto the Instant Pot. So we'll go ahead and close this. You want to make sure that it clicks. And then there's always 2 settings on the lid here. You want to make sure it's on sealing. So it's either sealing, which seals the whole vessel and there's no interaction with the outside air. The other mode is venting, which we would use to like steam things. But we want this to come to a boil as fast as possible. So we want to go ahead and seal it. So I've done that. And now it's just a little bit of waiting, and it depends on what temperature your milk is at for how long it's going to take for it to come to a boil. So if you keep it out at room temperature for about an hour, I find that it's ready in about 30, maybe 40 minutes at most.
Excellent. Didn't seem too hard at all.
And it's not. Anyone can do it. Okay, so now the pot has come to a boil, and it actually just beeped, and that was right off camera. So we went ahead and turned that off. And what I did in the meantime was just put it on saute mode, because we don't want to lose the heat in the Instant Pot. So on every model, it will be in a different place, but there is always a saute function. So go ahead and turn that on, and we'll carefully take the lid off. Just be very careful, because there's always a lot of steam coming out of here. The first couple times I did it, I was like, oh, let me just get right to it, and the steam came right onto my face. So you want to kind of stand back. The first thing you're going to do as soon as it's open is you're going to take your vinegar, and I measured out about a quarter of a cup, give or take. I mean, you don't want to put like more than a cup in here, because in the end you're going to want to rinse it, and you want to do less rinsing if possible. So about a quarter to a half a cup is perfect. So I'm just going to stand back, take my handy spatula, carefully put it in here, and as I'm gently stirring this, I'm going to pour in the vinegar. And as you'll see as I'm pouring this in, that the milk will start separating into two parts. It's going to be curds and whey. So we'll go ahead and start it. Usually it takes a little bit. It almost looks like it's not going to work initially, then all of a sudden everything will start separating. You can already tell with the foam on top that it's starting to show the curds a little bit. So I'll lift it up, see all those curds there. So you want to stir it as long as you need to. There's no like time limit on it, but you will see the separation pretty obviously. So if you can tell, the color of the milk is turning paler, and that's because the separation is continuing to happen. See, now the curds are getting larger. And you hear that sound at the bottom? That's the sound of no milk sticking to the bottom, and that's because we put the water down on the Instant Pot before we poured the milk in. Because I did this exact same method last time before I learned about the water trick, and everything was stuck down there. And then as I was mixing it, I was pulling up dried like milk that had turned brown, and it wasn't fun to see it in here. Look at that. Look at all these curds.
Excellent.
Okay, so now that it has separated, I'm going to go ahead and take my spatula out, and we can just lay it in this bowl here. And then we'll bring our cheesecloth here. And remember last time we took a colander and placed it over a bowl with double layer of cheesecloth. And I'm just going to carefully look at all those curds. Okay, so now we've transferred all of our curds into the strainer here, and we'll just let that gently sit there, and then you can see what's left over. It's just the whey. I mean, you'll have a few little curds in here, and you can spend a lot of time taking it out, but you don't need to. This is fine.
And what do you use the whey for?
Well, honestly, I've a lot of times just thrown it away because it's too much effort to think about what to do with this. I know I've been told that there's so many benefits of whey and different uses, so I've been trying to be useful and use a little bit of it at least, but it's hard to use all of it sometimes. But a main thing to use, if you're making a full Indian meal, you can use the whey to put into your atta when you're making the dough for the rotis, parathas, chapatis. Instead of using water, you can use the whey. You'll need to let it cool down a little bit and mix it right in. And it has a lot of health benefits, a lot of protein in it, good for your hair and skin, so you want to use it if you can. And another more recent use I found for this, I read somewhere, was to put it into plants. And I have a lot of plants at home, and I started doing that just a little bit. I would dilute it into like a gallon and put it into the plants, and they seem healthy to me, so something's working.
Good. Sounds good.
Okay, I've went ahead and taken all the moisture out of here. All the liquid water has now been pressed out of here, and it looks like this. And I'll go ahead and transfer this into a little bowl. And I just washed my hands, so I can go ahead and knead this paneer. The more you knead it, it will congeal better instead of crumbling. And then once it's kneaded, it will go into the casserole dish. Cut. Okay, now that it's kneaded, we put it into the casserole dish, and I used a little vessel here to help me go ahead and push it down into the casserole dish. And you can keep doing this until you find that it's homogeneous in here. Okay, now that we have it in the casserole dish and all pressed out, what I usually do is put a piece of saran wrap on here with some heavy books or another pot on it, and we'll go ahead and cover it and refrigerate it. And I usually leave it overnight so it solidifies, so you're able to cut it into cubes when it's finished.
We would also like to thank Purvi Parikh. She grew up in central Pennsylvania with a mother who loved to cook and had her working with her in the kitchen since a young age. Over the years, she became a surgeon and works at Rochester General Hospital, where she finds being a good surgeon helps you to become a really great cook. When she's not working, she enjoys cooking foods from around the world and baking delicious cakes. Thank you very much, Purvi Aunty. Now we're going to show you some dishes that you can make with paneer. Here I have Bijal Aunty with me. So tell us.
Hi, hello everyone. Paneer, typically you think about paneer as being used in main dishes like matar paneer, saag paneer, paneer tikka masala. But paneer actually can be used in parathas. It can be used to make street food like paneer pakoras. One of my favorite ones, because it is my son's favorite, is chili paneer. So Purvi and Nisha both showed us how to make paneer. You basically take the paneer that they made and you cut it into pieces and you saute it with onions, some mix of colored peppers, put those paneer pieces in, some ginger, garlic, some chili powder, a little bit of soy sauce, a bit of tomato ketchup. There are no right or wrong answers here. Just throw in a mix of some Chinese sauces and some Indian sauces, and before you know it, you have delicious what we call Indo-Chinese chili paneer. You can use that as an appetizer at any party. They make great appetizers and they can be either served right off the pan, or you can actually pre-make them and then you can bake it in the oven as well, and it stays really, really good. So it's a great dish to make it ahead of time if you have a big party of people coming in, and you can just stick it in the oven and reheat it, and it reheats really, really well.
Cool, thank you for telling us. Now we're going to swing it over live into the IHM kitchen with Bijal Aunty and a new presenter, Jane Mohandas. Jane Mohandas is the owner of the travel agency Travelese. She's been in Rochester since 1991, and cooking and baking are one of her many passions. She's grateful to her mother for teaching her all she knows about working in the kitchen. She also does a catering business on the side. Let's see what they're going to tell us today. We're going to take a moment to transition to live, so please hang with us.
Hello, Jane. Thanks for joining me today.
Nice to meet you again.
Yes, it's been great sharing these different recipes with you at the IHM kitchen. Today, actually, we're going to make chai. You know, one of my favorite memories from college days is having chai with friends. Sometimes maybe skipping classes, sometimes maybe not. So why don't we start with how we can make chai? And you know, the interesting thing, Jane, about chai is you can use all kinds of different combinations.
Sure.
Today, I'm going to show fresh mint, whole cardamom, and fresh ginger. But my other favorite way to make chai is to actually have a dry spice mix chai for the chai. And you know what's great about this is you don't need any fresh ingredients and it travels really well. So some of my friends know that I do a lot of traveling. I actually carry my chai masala around the world because I can live without pretty much any creature comforts of my home. But one thing I cannot be without is chai. So let's get started. So I have a mortar and pestle. It's important to have a really good sort of a solid mortar and pestle. These are our fresh, these are our whole green cardamoms. So I'm going to use some of those and just crush them coarsely. You don't need to have them finely done. You can just sort of, that makes a bit of a noise. Be careful, it's sitting on a nice hard surface. Otherwise you're going to damage the surface it's on. So very coarse, as you can see. The great thing about cardamom is it's a nice sweet spice. You know, we use it in other Indian dishes as well, but it's the favorite combination for me for chai is ginger, cardamom, and fresh mint. I also have some fresh mint here, chopped up. And here is some fresh ginger. You can get fresh ginger at any Asian store or even at Wegmans. So it's easily available. And typically for ginger, what I do is I grate it into a little bit of a fine grate, as you can see here. And the measurement is for 1 cup. I tend to use 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of fresh grated ginger, a few leaves of mint. There is, again, no right or wrong answer here. That's the great thing about Indian cooking is measurements are not always necessary. And of course, a few pods of
of whole cardamom. I've got my tea actually being warmed up here. Oh, we need another pot. Anyway, I think we have an issue with the pot today. So what I'm going to do is we are going to boil the water. If you can find me a pot here, that would be great. While we are waiting for the pot and to boil the water, what I'm going to do is in the interim, I'm going to show you how to make the spice mix. For the spice mix, I have several ingredients. I have whole cloves. I have some peppercorn, whole peppercorn, some cinnamon. We also use cardamom in it. And one of my other ingredient, which is the main ingredient, is a dry version of the ginger. So ginger powder is easily available. You can get it at any food store, Wegmans, Indian store, any kind of Asian store. And the proportion to make the mix is 3 parts of the ginger powder, 3 parts of the cardamom, and I would say very, very few peppercorns in it. Peppercorns you don't want to use too much because it's a very spicy mix. Exactly. And few cloves. And then 2 parts of cinnamon. So the main sort of flavor is cardamom, cinnamon, and ginger. So the neat thing about the chai mix is that you need to have some sweet spices, which are your cinnamon and your cardamom. You of course have your fresh ginger, or dried ginger in this case. And then you have in very little amounts some the more spicier versions of the whole spices, which is the cloves and the peppercorns. I love to use a coffee grinder. It's the best way to make the good consistency of the masala right here. And the way you make tea is just boil some water. I would say for every cup of water, I add about 1/3 to half a cup of milk. Milk is, again, depends on how much milk you like. Typically, Indian chai tends to be a bit more milky.
Can you make it with almond milk?
Absolutely. So you can substitute dairy with almond milk, oat milk, cashew milk. I found that cashew milk works the best because it's creamier. Almond milk tends to be a little bit more watery. So cashew milk actually works really, really well. So I would say for a cup of water, use maybe 1/3 or half a cup of milk of your choice. I don't like my tea very milky, so I even use a little bit less than that. And then what I do is when the water is boiling, I add the fresh ginger, some of the fresh mint, and the cardamom that we ground earlier.
So you boil it all in the water.
Exactly. You boil it in the water and you let it steep for a little while. And then you add milk, and and then you pour it. What we're going to do is we're going to do actually a live demo because I wanted to keep the excitement going here. So we are going to do a live demo next week, but I wanted to share the different combinations of chai that you can look forward to next week.
Looking forward to it.
And I thank you, Jane. Let's make sure that we get together one of these days.
Absolutely.
And have some chai and maybe some of the common that we saw earlier as well. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today at our second session of Flavors of India. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you learned something new about your favorite snacks, maybe your tip or two. Join us back next week to learn more about Indian recipes. We'll be showing you different types of bread like peplas, roti atta, and more. So don't forget to join us same time, same day. We'll also be showing you how to make tea. Don't miss out. We hope to see you next week. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.